Hey, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Karkwadash, and of course, double honors are due to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who, through the Holy Spirit, continue to teach us this truth. All right, this is Naaman with the DC camp. And as you can see on the screen, this is from the Milwaukee Independent. And it says, a racial reckoning. Why people of color represent a mirror that white America refuses to look into. Now, I've often said that this is the deal, but you have a people that are in power, and as such, they control the media. They, up until now, all these things were by and large suppressed. The internet was the beginning of the end. These devils couldn't ride. They could suppress, you know, certain literature, you know, books, etc. But once that internet got out, I think it's who was it? Jay Rockefeller, the senator from West Virginia. Yeah, one of the Rockefellers. All right, he made that statement that the internet should never have been invented. Why? Because much of their power, when we're talking about the elites, much of that power uh, was in the fact that they were in the shadows. All right. But now all this, all they could do is try to, damage control, but they can only do so much because so much information is coming out on these jackasses. All right. But anyway, so here you go. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And a lot of us bought into that bullshit, not realizing and matching up our condition to this time period, as painful as though it would be. All right, but facts are facts. What condition were we in when all this shit was written? Exactly. We were hardcore, in hardcore slavery. All right, chattel slavery. So did that apply to us? Was all men? Did that mean us? No. They were talking about themselves. See? All right. And our people looking, it's ironic because our people were looking towards this like other people look at our book, the Holy Scriptures, which are for us. By contrast, this was for the heathen. This had nothing to do with us. All right. Continuing on, it says, our nation was born in genocide. We are perhaps the only nation which tried as a matter of national policy to wipe out its indigenous population. No, you weren't. All right. Australia, actually everywhere you murdering pieces of shit landed. That's why Malachi says what it says. Let's get that real quick. All right. Let's go to, let's see, Malachi, first chapter. All right. I'll just go to 4. I was going to read the whole thing, but I encourage you. But for time's sake, I'm just going to skip to the 4. Whereas Edom saith, Edom are the descendants of Jacob's brother Esau. All right. You can go to Genesis 25th chapter. All right. When you fully get the understanding, I'm not going to tell you, for those of you that don't know, then you can understand who Esau is in the reincarnation and his descendants. It says, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Most High Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. That's all you see now, all right? With this gentrification and everything, because what? They're in the power, all right? They're in the power seat. Micah 2nd chapter, I'll get that next. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness and the people against whom the Most High Yahweh hath indignation forever. Everywhere they set up, all right, eventually nothing but wickedness comes out from them. Remember, First Maccabees, first chapter, what does it say? When Alexander and them came into power, what? It says wickedness increased. What is it telling you? They were the first of their kind at that point to rule on such a massive scale. That's when they begin to take over. And it says wickedness increased. Why didn't it say that about people before then? So these people are the wicked. And what did they do? All right, they rule. You remember, a lot of people don't know that there were two um, Roman empires. There was the pagan Roman, all right, and then there was the Holy Roman, which our people largely ruled, all right. So these assholes after then didn't come back into power until roughly 1,000 years later during the what's associated now as the Renaissance period. And remember that little season, all right? They were Revelation 20th chapter, all right? They weren't able to deceive the world until what? They came back into power and they've been doing it ever since. All right, so let's go back to the article since we know who we're dealing with now. It says, moreover, we elevated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or feel remorse for this shameful episode. All right, and that's Martin Luther King. All right. There are certain fundamental truths that far too many Americans refuse. That's the operative word here, refuse to believe about their country. One of these is that the story of America we have all been taught about in school is full of full of lies. All right, don't sugarcoat it. Lies, straight up lies. Unfortunately, for those attempting to prove otherwise, your forebears left a litany of evidence of their bad deeds. All right. The evidence is plain to see and always has been. For most of the nation's history, the truth was not in dispute. The bad deeds were spoken and written about by the perpetrators. They found a way to justify these bad deeds time and time again. Even with Columbus, you had um, um, Bartolome de las Casas, the holy man that was with him, supposed holy man that was with him, all right? He wrote a catalog all these atrocities that were committed at the behest of Columbus and his murderous, comrades, all right? It says, when an anti-black race riot took place in Lincoln's birthplace, Springfield, Illinois, in 1908, it spurred a multiracial group to form the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which, if you don't know, is run by fake Jews. All right? It says they set about challenging America's discriminatory practices, policies, and laws that had kept so-called black people largely unprotected for 300 years. Black GIs returned from World War I fighting for the rights promised in the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights came back to make America live up to those lofty ideals. The Civil Rights Movement exposed the truth of America to the rest of the world. All right, and I have, if I can find it again, it was a black and white. It was from 1964, a documentary. And the Edomite, so-called white man, in that documentary said, yeah, we learned uh, from the civil rights from the civil rights period, all right, and you better believe they took steps because that exposed these devils to the rest of the world, and even during the Vietnam era, that certainly falls into that spot there. Uh, a lot of people don't know the comments that Ho Chi Minh made. And that's why, if you remember the movie Dead Presidents, there was a scene in there where they're over there fighting, and Vietnamese leave a note. I guess one of them, I can't remember, is that the one that castrated the white boy, the Edomite, or it was Jake that was caught. They were saying they left a note that said black man go home. Well, there was a reason for that. All right, it's like everybody knows our afflictions. All right, but Jake tends to ignore, and he's always got his head up these Edomites, these white people's, asses. All right, but that's that Stockholm syndrome. That's that colonial um, mindset. I forget the exact terminology for it. Colonial, uh, basically the same thing. The second word I can't remember. Anyway, but that's Jake. All right, to the point where a lot of us
A lot of our people just, they're content and want to stay on this devil because he gives them goodies, he gives them privileges. That's. Um, I was going to make reference to another one. You probably haven't seen that, but uh, our people are just, they got to go. They have got to go. Death is the only merciful solution. All right. It says for 50 years, blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Asian Americans, I don't know why you throw them in there, challenged the racial order in America in a national civil rights movement. They began to shine a mirror on America that was used by communists as propaganda against this nation. All right, because it's the truth. It's an easy thing. All right. It says this mirror has shown on a pack of lies, and that's exactly what it is, clearly over the course of time since the civil rights movement was destroyed by the federal government under the auspices of the COINTEL program led by FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover with the approval of presidents and attorney generals of this nation. So what can you do when the top law enforcement officer, which is the attorney general, and the president, all these high officials want to keep you in your lowest state? You've got to call on the Most High. And for that, you need to know his name. His name is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahweh Shai, not God and Jesus. All right. Proverbs 18 and 10. Let's go there real quick. You have to know the name. The name. You don't like anybody addressing you as somebody else, do you? Let's go to Proverbs 18. All right. It says, the name of the Most High Yahweh is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. Let's carry it a step further here. Let's go back to Proverbs. Let's go to 30 and 4. Who hath ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who hath gathered the wind in his fist? Who hath bound the waters in a garment? Who hath established all the ends of the earth? What is his name, and what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? What is it? And that's why we tell you so much power. All right, and that's why they're cutting off all our videos. That's why you see things happening at the pace, accelerated pace that they're happening now. All right, because there's so much power in that name. If it weren't so, why weren't these events happening when we were always calling on sweet Jesus and all that other stuff? All right, think about that. Or carry it a step further, this Islam shit. All right, let's go back. All right. It says the past 7 years since Michael Brown was killed by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, has been an opening of eyes, ears, hearts, and minds. Now, let me, before I forget, when we passed over this segment here, you got to remember when it talks about COINTELPRO and all that, it's still in effect. That never went away. You got to remember this Black Lives Movement bullshit. Who do you think was behind that? We know that George Soros, the fake Jew billionaire, he set up what? Some homosexuals, and that's what it's all about, really. But you assholes, when we try to tell you these things, you don't believe us. So you're out there marching for some bullshit. You're out there marching and asking your oppressor to please not kill us, the one that hates you the most in all this world. All right. In fact, let's get um, let's see, Psalms 43 and 1. It says, "Judge me, O Most High, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation." The nation of Edom, the so-called white people, they are ungodly. They are juxtaposed. They are contrary to everything, all the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. They are contrary. That's the way they were created to be. All right. It says, "Oh, deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man." Deceitful. This jab, this magic virus, it's deceit. All right, it's witchcraft at the highest level also. You mean to tell me you've got people that you would otherwise think that are intelligent, all right, otherwise highly educated, which shows you there's a difference between wisdom and intellect. All right, got all these degrees, and you fall for something as you would think is so obvious that it's bullshit, it's fake, it's wow. It's like, and you become even more thankful that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Kwadash is dealing with you, that you were given this eye salve and you're able to see past these illusions, all right, past this deceit, this deception. And you're like, wow, you can't see this. You hear the conversations, which were always bullshit, but more so now, than people just really have no clue. They really believe that wearing a mask, this type of mask, is going to protect you. They really believe that this devil is giving you this when they've never given a shit about you before, that actually cares for you now. This is some frightening shit. But you should realize that even back in the day with the lynchings and all this, these things you would think, well, wait a minute, shouldn't you wait to see if this man is actually guilty? And now you understand that mob mindset. All right, this everybody's just, and that's scripture too. That's Exodus. Let me see. Let's see. This is Exodus 23, verse 2. It says, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment." When was it ever a good thing to just follow everybody because they do it? All right. Anyway, let's see. It says, "Witnesses to the falsity of the creed of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness have made America look in the mirror. They will not stop forcing America to look at itself honestly. Ethnic studies programs have developed copious documentation of the truth from the perspective of people of color." And this thing about critical race theory, how it's not theory, it's fact, but you don't want to face it. And that's what this article here is going into. They refuse, they refuse to face it. All right, it says this evidence has challenged the way America sees itself, but more specifically, how many white Americans, but not nearly enough of them, see this country. Now we see people who want to put the genie back into the bottle. It's too late. Fighting to end the teaching of systemic racism is showing how active systemic racism is. Trying to cover up the bad deeds, not wanting to teach anything about slavery, wanting to take it out the history books. All right. Trying to cover up the bad deeds that have been well documented by the perpetrators is backfiring. More people are becoming aware of the bad deeds and attempts to keep them a secret by those who want to keep us in the dark. They have inadvertently brought attention to things previously unknown and not spoken of. It reminds me of a mischievous child who can't wait to do exactly what their parents tell them they should not do. Hell, that's Esau right there. You remember the story. All right. These attempts have piqued people's interest and is leading to a lot of uncivil discourse in the so-called white community. Good. Good. White people are arguing about the images in the mirror for the first time in the nation's long history. You know why? I'm going to show you why. That's why the apostles always said, keep it spiritual. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. That's Esau's blessing, the sword. All weapons of warfare, all that stuff. Anything to do with carnality, all right, the flesh. That's his blessing. He says, but mighty through the Most High to the pulling down of strongholds. Here's the point. Casting down imaginations, lies, etc., and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Hamashiach Yahushua. That's why we're out here. That's what's working. Not going to the gun ranges, wanting everybody to see that you're so tough. That ain't gonna get it. This is Hosea chapter 5. Whoops, one more. Chapter 6, verse 5. I always get that reversed. It says, therefore have I hewed them by the prophets. I have slain them by the words of my mouth. And thy judgments are as the light that goeth forth, because the truth is bringing this devil down. Not sticks and stones, not bombs. It's the truth. The truth. The truth. Continuing on. So much of the real history of America is now part of a discourse that it can't be unlearned. The white supremacists who rallied to protect Confederate monuments in Charlottesville in 2017 brought attention to how many of those monuments exist. I doubt that many Americans prior to 2017 were aware of the extent that states in the South and North celebrated those traitors who attempted to break up the Republic, leading to America's bloodiest war. People of color have made sure that their lived experiences are well documented, and this has led to those stories being explored in multiple genres of film, television, radio, and podcast. No one can honestly claim to not know more than they knew a decade ago. There you go. America has two mirrors. One is like the mirror at the circus, which distorts reality. The other is the more accurate one we have in our bathrooms. For the first time in America, people are breaking the circus mirror because it distorts the story of how we got here. And I'm going to leave it at that. You can read the rest of it, because I didn't even get to the halfway point. All right. It goes down to Plessy v. Ferguson, all that stuff. All right. And yeah, it's a good read. That's something you could, because I am going to file it and, use it as something that might need it on the line one day. You never know. That's what we're all here for, So with that, again, this is from the Milwaukee Independent, a racial reckoning. Why people of color represent a mirror that white America refuses to look into. Like I was talking about 2 Corinthians 10 and 4, you think of, like I said, the truth is bringing this devil down. Imagine, if you will, this truth being that salt that's sprinkled on that slug. What happens? All right? That snail, that slug. There you go. That's what's happening. All right? May your words be seasoned with salt. Okay. Hey, so with that, I hope whoever views this, as usual, is edified. Because that's what we aim to do here. Filter current events, through the scriptures, that is. And, trying to wake up the remaining hopeful elect. Time grows shorter and shorter and shorter. And the way it looks now, things could kick off at any moment, all right? Because these devils, they know their time is short. Revelation 12 chapter 12 and 12, all right? They know their time is short. That's especially a good chapter to read now, all right? So, yeah, so with that, hey, shalom, shalom.